over a 20-year time, we have so devalued the trades, which are so important to this country. I mean, every road you drive on, almost everything you do and touch every day, was built and done by somebody in the trades, and the food you eat and on and on. I mean, it's everything.
Well, hello and welcome to the Skillwork Forum. My name's Tim. I'm again joined with my partner, Brett, here from Skillwork. And as always, we use these opportunities to talk to you about things related to skilled tradesmen, employment, issues revolving skilled craftsmen, and particularly industries like construction and manufacturing, where we work a lot in those industries as our partners. So today, we're doing something a little bit different, Brett. We've been doing these Skillwork Forum podcasts for a while now, and we get an opportunity to engage with those of you out there that take your time, and we want to say, number one, thank you. We really appreciate the fact that you do take time to listen to these and engage, and you provide us questions and comments back. And we thought we'd take the time today to kind of respond to some of the responses that we've got, and particularly there's kind of two themes that we see consistently coming back from mostly skilled craftsmen out there, that we wanted to maybe read a couple of their comments, and Brett, you're going to respond to what our comment back to you would be along those lines. And essentially the two topics, if we had to summarize them, it would be the challenge with wages and the wage gap, and the perception out there that skilled craftsmen are being underpaid. And the second one that's kind of tied to that, it's the whole idea, the whole concept of respect. And those are the two things we want to hit on, right?
Yep. No, for sure. I think that's a consistent theme. And I think they do kind of overlay, because if you feel undervalued, you tend to feel disrespected. And so they kind of, to some degree, they go hand in hand. At the same time, sometimes I think, and we're going to talk about it a little bit, sometimes the industry is behind on getting the wages caught up for the skilled labor that we're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And some of it is actually the trends are going in the right direction, and a lot of it has to do with the high demand skilled trades that have to do on the higher technology part of things are on the increase. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But we thought we would just maybe read some comments from those of you out there and then respond accordingly. So we'll read these exactly as they come across. So unedited, quoted here, and they're always colorful, and we try to respond. Actually, either Brett or I try to respond to all of them. So we do read these and we do respond. But here's one that has something to do with wages, and this is kind of example of what we see a lot of. This representative of a lot of comments. So this is from Steve G. Responding to our podcast that we call Growing Skilled Labor Shortage. And Steve G writes this, quote, Millennial Timmy, not this Timmy, another one. I don't think I'm a millennial. So
no,
he's saying
that.
Millennial Timmy graduates high school, goes to work for skilled trade at $14 an hour, busting his you-know-what every day, working with his hands. Or he could work at work at Starbucks. He could work at Starbucks for $16 an hour, making lattes with his hands, plus tips. Timmy picks Starbucks every time. So he's basically saying, why would somebody go work hard with their hands, unappreciated job, when he can go, have a cool job at Starbucks for $2 more an hour?
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
Well, I think it is, there is some reality in that. I think obviously the restaurants and a lot of that hospitality space, they, because of the demand to find staff right now coming out of the COVID pandemic, now we're at a whole different level of those Starbucks and McDonald's and on and on and on, all trying to find staff, so they're having to increase their wages.
Yeah.
And some of the construction labor, whether you be a painter or whether you be, a variety of different things, we're going to get into it in a minute. Not so much, and I think that's where we want to kind of separate the gap, is the more specialized crafts, and obviously our encouragement would be is while, yeah, there is some underpaying in the skilled labor side, and it needs to get adjusted, you're not going to, it doesn't make sense for a guy to bust his hump, as he says here, for 15, 16, 17 bucks an hour. It's just hard to get them to stay in that. Back even 10 years ago, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, even some of the more technical were still in that $17, $18 an hour, and we're really starting to see that started to take off. So there's some truth in it. I think the construction, people that are leading construction companies, I think they definitely need to take a hard look at what they're paying, some of the laborers.
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing that. I think the federal government just mandated that anybody working on a federal contract, federal job, mandated minimum wage, $15 an hour. I mean, these wages are being increased for entry-level jobs, and the demand is, and supply and demand issue. I just told you the other day, Brett, about an article I read that it was in Florida, McDonald's. So McDonald's used to be like, that was, I'm aging myself here, but I remember guys going to work for McDonald's for $3.50, $3.75 an hour back in the day. It's crazy, isn't it? And my dad was telling me I was making way too much. but there's a McDonald's that was giving $50 just to show up for an interview.
Yeah,
not to get the job. Just show up for the interview, and we'll give you $50. Now, I don't know whether that's $50 at McDonald's French fries or what, but still $50.
Yeah, no,
but
that's crazy.
That speaks to your point, about that. So, the comment that was made here by Steve, we hear it a lot, that the frustration of working in the skilled trades, especially breaking into it, that the work is so hard and the pay is not commensurate with, they're looking around at somebody working at a McDonald's that makes as much or almost as much, and they see that there's a lack of fairness there. And fairness, that gets to this comment that we hear a lot about respect.
Right.
And I think we want to focus on that, because it's a cultural shift that needs to take place with respect to wages. Supply and demand, the economic model will take care of that. It's coming around. We're seeing that gap close, but the respect issue really is.
Yeah, no, the respect's huge. Yeah. I mean, we probably, and I think it's connected. I do want to back up a minute and talk a little bit more about the wages. just from a standpoint, and then let's kind of do a little more of a deep dive into the respect thing. But one thing I was looking, in kind of prepping for this a little bit, and there's a company, they do surveys called Pay Scale, and they do a lot of assessment of what jobs are worth and what they're getting paid and whatnot. One thing that's interesting, and this is kind of true across the board, almost consistently, whether you're in a high-paying job or whether you're in a low-paying job, most people, if you ask them, are you satisfied with the compensation you're getting for what you're doing, 50% of people automatically will say no. Yeah. And so you got to kind of keep it a little bit in perspective. It's not to discount and go, well, these people it's not justified, their comments on wages. In a lot of cases, it is 100% justified. But you also have to put it in perspective to understand that, everybody feels a little undervalued, and everybody, feels like, I'm worth a little bit more. And it doesn't change a whole lot, like I said, from the guy making $15 an hour or the guy making $45 an hour, or a gal. They both have a similar, kind of a response to that, and that survey kind of played that out.
Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you that I kind of feel like I'm getting underpaid as well. So I was hoping you could take a look at that after this podcast.
Yeah, we will. My dad always said, if you ever have to ask for a raise, it's probably time to move on. My dad had a lot of quotes. He had a lot of wisdom.
And I'm glad he passed it on to you. All right. Well, back to the more serious topic. So, I mean, there's a wage issue, but there are also, there's some trends that the wages are improving for some skilled trades.
They are. I think that's the part, we do hear a lot, and we appreciate it. And I think in a lot of that skilled labor, those wages, I think, are still trailing where they need to be in that. But a lot of what we do and a lot of what we study and see a lot is more in the more, I guess I want to say, the more technical space. And so whether it's electricians, plumbers, mechanics, construction managers, in those areas, there are positions out there and opportunities out there that you're definitely starting to see the wage. I mean, we see it, like I said a little bit ago, as probably most people who have watched this podcast know, I spent, a big chunk of my career in the food manufacturing space. And my dad, actually, that we just talked about, he was a ammonia refrigeration specialist. So I kind of grew up in the maintenance trade, or at least around it. And so, I can remember not that long ago, like I said, where we were paying mechanics, $17, $18 an hour. We know today, if the companies that we work with, if you're not paying a skilled mechanic, 24 plus, and a lot of them, depending on the market, closer to probably 28 and more. I mean, we've got a client right now that's paying electrical mechanical guys, not electricians, but electrical mechanical guys, they're paying $31 an hour and struggling to find help. So that demand and that skill, but you got to have the skill, and you've got to take the time to invest. If you right now you feel like, hey, I'm not being properly compensated here, that's probably a fair complaint, but there's also an opportunity to say, where is some of that? I printed off, there's a group, I don't remember, to be honest with you, that familiar with them, but called the Interview Guys. They've been featured in Forbes and Inc., and they do some really good data and some really good information, and they had listed 2021 the top 15 skilled trade jobs, and I thought it was interesting. The number one is a plumber. A plumber is averaging about $41 an hour, and so some of the other ones that I thought, there wasn't any job on here in the top 15 in the skilled trades that was paying less than $25 an hour. So Timmy, who's working at Starbucks for 16, I think if he get himself the right skill set, there's a bigger opportunity, I think, in some of the other spaces. And so an interesting one, Tim, and this is a space we don't currently do anything in, we might have to look into it, as I keep seeing this, I've read it in multiple places, but right now a really big demand is elevator mechanics. I think one of the guys in one of our comments had commented that's a space you should look into. Elevator mechanics are making on average $40 an hour, and so they're in such demand, and it's such a specialized skill type thing. So a variety of others, like I said, electricians and so forth, but everything is north of 25, to
I think you hit on a good
40.
point too, Brett. And you talked about your dad, and my dad also came from a trades background. He was an electrician, and he was working locally at a manufacturing facility. We're from relatively small town in Arkansas, and in order to do what he needed to do financially, he pursued a different location where he could get 30% more in wages to go to where that job was available. Mm-hmm. So a part of what we do here, sometimes it's location.
Yep.
So you could have a skilled trade in a certain location that's only paying $18 an hour.
Yep.
A company like ours, if you're willing to travel, and we provide all the necessary support for you to do that, the exact same job with the exact same skills, we may be able to get you 20, 25, 30% higher wages in a different location.
Yep.
So sometimes it's not just, the skill, it's the location.
Yeah.
So being mobile.
Yep. I was just talking to Mark, one of our sales guys this morning, and he was talking to a company, perfect example, there was a facility in Oklahoma, and this guy had become a supervisor at this facility in Oklahoma, and he had come from Wisconsin, and the wage gap for the same job was significant. You wouldn't think, why, Wisconsin to Oklahoma, but it was in the range of probably $6 an hour. So, I told him, I said, well, we might have to start targeting Oklahoma to pull those guys north to get them the wage that they probably deserve.
Yeah.
So
It is always a little bit surprising to me geographically where companies that are looking for, in some cases, even a higher skill set are offering a wage that frankly is just not competitive on a nationwide scale. And we've talked before that you've got to expand your aperture in looking for these candidates, and you're fishing in the same pond out back that you've been for years, paying $18 an hour. That's just not going to be able to be persisted.
But one of the beauties, Tim, of America and the economy that we're blessed with, or the system that we're blessed with, it's a true supply demand. Like I said in the food manufacturing, I was in the pork belly business for a long time, and when pork bellies would get really high, bacon prices get really high, people quit buying it. Guess what? Bellies go down. I mean, that's the beauty of a supply. When you keep your hands out of it and you just let the market adjust itself. Wages are the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want the talent to keep your plant running efficiently, you're going to have to pay a fair wage to get that talent, because somebody else is going to be willing to pay, especially with the shortage that there is right now.
Yeah, and I think we've heard a few comments that people are jaded somewhat against what they perceive as company owners and management trying to get you for low wage and not treat you with respect. And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute, but I can just tell you from our perspective at Skillwork, our goal is to get our guys the very best wage that we can possibly get at the very best location that provides what you need. So we're working for our skill workers to try to get you the best opportunity, as well as trying to service our clients. So I know we can't speak for everybody. We don't manage the wage that they pay, but our, part of who we are, as a matter of fact, one of our core values is, we desire to bring back value and respect to skilled craftsmen. We believe they deserve it. We live it out every day here, and a big part of that is a fair wage, a good wage for the work that they do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a two-way street. This must be a day of me quoting my dad. I must be channeling my dad today. As he would always tell me, back when I was hiring people and so forth, that good people will always pay for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what we're saying here is we're gonna, our respect to our clients is we're going to provide you the skill that you need. We're not going to ask you to pay for something that won't deliver. On the flip side, for that skilled worker, we're going to get them the absolute best wage and the best situation and culture that we can put them in. And if it isn't the right one, then we'll
make it right. We'll make it right. So I want to read a couple more comments and have you respond, Brett, on some of the guys. And this kind of gets to the respect and appreciation, and there's a lot of them like these, but I'll just read a couple. From Chris and Max, I guess it's a tag team here. So they said that the trade workers don't feel appreciated and looked down on by a lot of society. Until this changes, it's going to be hard for younger people to learn these jobs and make it a career. And they go on to say in a follow-up a few weeks later that great trade worker with years of skill and knowledge are hard to find these days. You need to keep the ones you have happy so they don't get frustrated and go to work for someone else. Hiring people just to fill the slots might look good on paper, but bad in the real world situation. Some people are not mechanically able to do the work. That's that lowering of the bar. So you try to train and they just mess it up, then you have to fix it and it's counterproductive. And he says, I speak of this from personal experience, from having to run crews of people that we had described, this lowering of the bar. After 31 years in his career, here's his advice. Your company has to offer better pay, benefits, and an atmosphere that respects workers so you can attract these kind of skilled workers going forward. So it has to do with that respect, and wages and respect are tied together. But this idea of appreciating people.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a value. It's as you indicated a minute ago, Tim. All of our values. We have 3 core values that we founded the company on, and in a lot of ways, they're really all built around respect. Our first is we bring to honor God in everything we do. We talk about it all the time. The greatest example of true equality and respect was Christ and the values that he carried. We try to do that, and then that specific bringing value and respect back to the trades. But we talk about it internally with our own employees here. It's appreciating them and respecting one another. It's a big deal in our culture. If we don't do it here, we're not going to do it right outside with the guys and gals that we place. And obviously we always talk about, we measure our success by the number of lives we positively impact. Again, that's a respecting, we're taking what Chris and Max said here and recognizing and saying, we see the same thing. Companies have to do, when you say the most important thing to us is our people, but you continue to not really address the people that you're hiring, you're bringing in lesser quality, you're not providing the training, the message is mixed.
Yep.
And individuals, they pick up on it very well. You're either genuine that your people matter, or you're not.
Yeah, we were talking, Brett, old school, coming out of old school mentality. You came out of manufacturing background. I came out of military background, and back in the day, it was just the guys that made it were just hardcore, and respect was something you earned through hard knocks, and it was just a tough environment. And today, we're living in a different world, but human nature is human nature, and people, we were designed by our Creator to desire respect and affirmation. And when you don't have that, we looked up some statistics on this, and this is not just a feel good, Starbucksy kind of a environment. We're talking about real impact to your bottom line if you have a culture where you're not respecting your folks. And some of these statistics are pretty telling here, and I'll read a couple of them, then Brett, you can respond to a couple of them. But this is a research involving 800 managers and employees in 17 different industries. And the report was called The Cost of Bad Behavior. And those that kind of received or felt disrespected, like many of the people that comment to our podcast, here's the research showed that 78% said that their commitment to the organization had declined. 78%, that's almost 80%, 8 out of 10. I'm no longer committed to your company. 66%, 2 out of 3, said that their job performance went down. Nearly 50% said they intentionally spent less time at work. So you've got problems with people showing up for work. Maybe it has to do with the way we're treating people there. And then finally, 38% said they deliberately decreased the quality of their work.
Yeah.
You disrespect me?
Yep. Yeah,
That's
it's a reality, like you said. I mean, it's and I think it's like you said, it's human nature. I mean, if you feel respected, then you're going to naturally respect. I'm not saying it goes against a little bit of what we talk about in spiritually from an unconditional. This is the reality of this is a very conditional love, but it's a reality.
Yeah,
it's a reality of if you're not most employees are not going to respond in a positive way if you're not treating them in the right way. And so, like you said, study after study show this. It's why, like I said, it was why one of the important things that we saw in our core values was the respect, back to the trades. I think Chris said it, or Chris and Max in theirs, is that in one of their comments was very specific that individuals feel disrespected by society. And we saw that too. Over a 20-year time, we have so devalued the trades, which are so important to this country. I mean, every road you drive on, almost everything you do and touch every day, was built and done by somebody in the trades, and the food you eat and on and on. I mean, it's everything.
Well, your number one job you listed there with plumbers. I guarantee you, when you need a plumber,
right? Yeah.
And it's and maybe because of where we came from, our dads were both blue collar guys that carried tools. We inherently respect that, and because of what they can do, and I think it's just crucial. It makes good business sense. Number one. So set aside, maybe you don't believe in the in the values and that God created us that way, but just as a business person, it makes good sense. Set that aside. It's just the right thing to do, and it's think about yourself. How do you like to be treated? Do you like to be devalued or disrespected? So some of these studies have talked about, even Brett, that people will take lower compensation, lower benefits, a lot of things that we think that are going to make people happy if they feel appreciated and respected.
Yeah. Well, it's part of that is being part of something, being part of a purpose. I think when a company kind of knows its why, has a purpose, it's something we spend a lot of time on here at Skillwork. But I think for all companies, I think people buy into that culture. They feel part of that. They feel respect. People want to be heard. They want to feel like their voice is valued. That there's just a genuine. That I think you commented there was a Harvard Business Review that basically said that there was no other leader behavior, speaking of respect, that had a bigger effect on employees. I mean, that's a big statement. We get. I think sometimes we put in a ping pong table and this and that and think, that should do it. Nothing wrong with ping pong. But valuing and respecting people, I think, is probably the biggest thing we can do as leaders.
Yeah, there's a couple other things here in these studies I just found fascinating because, inherently, that. You've experienced it. I've experienced it. I've been in places before where, you and I started this company. We started talking about a lot of what drove us to some of our core values was not because we experienced great companies with great core values,
right?
Because we experienced the opposite, and we're like, we ain't going to do that,
right?
Because we experienced it firsthand. And listen to some of these other things. It says people that feel disrespected, less creative. They, as I mentioned, they decrease their effort, lower the quality. And here's the other thing: people are less likely to buy. So think about your customers. Okay, you're in a business, you have customers. People are less likely to buy from a company with an employee they perceive as rude, whether the rudeness is directed at them or other employees. So if they see your employees treating your other employees rudely, they're less likely to buy from you. So you witness just one short negative interaction, it'll lead your customers to generalize that's who you are as a company. So it's a big deal.
Nope, it is. It's a really big deal. I say, don't sell a negative, and people buy into, if you talk your competition down or whatever the case may be, while it may be true, it's perceived as kind of a you disrespect people, you're kind of negative in that way. I think you even have to, respect your enemies, and at least, kind of recognize that. But I do think people, we had a recent, obviously we won't mention any names, but we had a recent company that was trying to sell us a product, and they I guess thought we asked too many questions, and we got a pretty rude response, and needless to say, it was a technology-based company, and we didn't go with them. We went with a different company. So
exactly, yeah. It means for us, it means a lot on how you interact and treat people. Like you mentioned, our core values: honor to God in everything we do, value and respect back to the skilled trades, and we measure our success by the way we positively impact people every day, and that can be in every walk of life. That's who we are. And for those of you out there that have commented on our podcast before, in many of these things, we hope we kind of address that. And we can't change the whole world, But you know, I think you said before, Brett, but you can change somebody's world.
Yep, that should be everybody's goal every day. You know, what you're doing may not change the world, but you might change somebody's or impact somebody's world in a little way or a big way. So that's what we try to do. We love the comments. Would love it when people take the time to engage, because it shows that you're at least passionate about it. You know, obviously we love the ones that are really thought out, but we'll take them all, and hopefully we can down the road we can address a few more of them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to looking at them as well. So again, we appreciate your time, the time you take to look at this. As always, if we can help you solve any of your skilled trades issues, or you're a skilled craftsman out there and you're interested in working for a company like Skillwork that values and respects you, we appreciate if you reach out. You know, skillwork.com. You can reach out to us whether you're a skill worker looking for a new opportunity or a company that wants to do business with somebody that holds these core values. We'd welcome the opportunity to talk to you either way. So until next time, thanks for joining us on the Skillwork Forum. Have a great one.